Hey everyone, we're at Haven Village in East Tennessee with Shawn from Hack My Homestead, and we are setting up our vermicomposting bin.
That's right. I am currently playing the part of a worm. What we're doing is we have this IBC tote and we've cut an opening in the front of it. And so this is where we'll be able to come over and load our compostables in. And we've got some gravel here in the bottom, which is what I'm standing on. Or I'm not really standing, I promise, it's not that tall, and I'm not that short. But in any case, we've got this gravel here, and so the gravel prevents anything from kind of like clogging the system up. We have the gravel at the bottom, and then we'll have window screen just like this, right at about that first bar down there. And from there, we've got, as you can see, there's holes drilled in this pipe, and there's holes drilled in this pipe as well, okay? And so what'll happen is that this bin essentially acts as a dewatering tank. What we don't want is we don't want our worms swimming, because they can't swim, they will drown. We want any liquids residual in here to be able to work its way through the system and out through the drain that's already in place at the bottom of this IBC. The window screen helps prevent the worms from actually exiting the system. We want them to stay in here where we're feeding them. And that gravel level will actually come up above the bottom here. And then we'll start with a wood chip layer. And the wood chip layer will probably come up to about this second zip tie. And so the wood chip allows, you know, what you would call worm tea in like a worm bin. It's gonna get bound up in the wood chips, okay? And so that's gonna, over time, create some fantastic compost. But then above this level, we'll just have like a little lattice work of twigs and things to keep it airy. And so then we can load our compostables up in here, and the worms will come up and eat, and then they'll deposit their worm castings on their way back down. And so we'll have a beautiful layer of worm castings. Essentially the top 2-3 inches of this will just be compost that we can take out, that's got tons of microbiology in it. It's going to have bacteria, it's going to have fungus, it's going to have worm eggs in it. So we come in here and we take this out and we take it over and put it in our garden or put it around our trees, and we don't even have to do anything. We can make worm tea out of this. So we can take those castings out, put them in a bag, and put them in like a vortex brewer and make gallons and gallons and gallons of foliar spray to use on our plants. And again, the material going in here will compost itself over time. What the worms do is they supercharge that system, they make it happen much faster, and they give us a better end product that's already kind of like perfectly balanced for our gardens.
So you can use this kind of system for many different things. Here at Haven Village, we're looking to use it with our compost toilets.
Right,
I know a lot of people
exactly.
think of worms and, you know, composting their food waste,
Yep.
which is definitely a way to do, or your leaves and that kind of thing. But just talk about like the feeding of the worms and how that works. And
Yeah.
and even Shawn, what you're working on with it, with a flush toilet, which we're not able to do here in Tennessee because of the gray water.
Right.
But this kind of system, you're looking to combine with an actual flushing toilet.
Absolutely. So in that type of system, we would just go through the opening that's already here. We would cut a smaller hatch just for maintenance, essentially. But yeah, so the kind of worms that we're putting in here are the kind of worms that you would find under a cow patty in a pasture, okay? They love manure, whether that's human manure or cow manure, it doesn't matter. So we can take the contents of our compost toilet and go right in here, and the worms are just going to do their job, and they're going to do it much faster. You guys may have heard of like the humanure system, okay, where you just set it and leave it alone and let the microbiology that's already in there kind of do the work. The worms supercharge that system. They can eat their own weight every single month, okay? And as this system gets loaded up, if there's more food for them, then they will reproduce and make more worms. And then other times of year, they will stop reproducing, and some of the worms will become compost themselves, right? So they will find that equilibrium within the system.
We're starting with 2.5 pounds of red wigglers.
Right.
And when do you expect them to double, and like, so that
Yeah,
ratio?
so it is the beginning of March right now. Beginning of April, you'll probably have 5 pounds of worms in here. And my guess is that over time, with full use from these yurts and with the visitors that come by as well, you might end up with like 7-8 pounds of worms in here, and that'll fluctuate. We are going to insulate all the way around the outside of this, and then we're going to take some of this dirt that we've excavated and kind of mound it up. So it essentially creates a bit of an earth contact system to kind of help the system regulate its temperature, and then we're going to keep the sun off. We're going to
Right,
put a
because I was
cover
just
over
going
it
to
as
say,
well.
you notice we put it sort of on the edge of forest because it does need shade. You don't want to fry your worms.
Exactly.
Well, I
You
think there is
don't-
something like fried worms.
Yeah, I was
right.
going to say, some people want fried worms. We just don't want them in here.
Right.
Right, and that will absolutely happen. So the worms will stay biologically active down to about 50 degrees and up to about 95 above, and this is Fahrenheit. Above 95, they're really going to start like stressing out, and too much higher than that, they will start dying off.
And you need to have a water source.
Yeah, so you definitely want to make sure that you're keeping the system nice and moist. If you're using it in a composting system where you've got more liquids in there, then that's typically fine. In a composting toilet system, when we come in, we wash out the bins. Okay. We just dump that wash water. And again, this valve over here is going to stay open. So there's no way for us to end up with too much
Shawn really
liquid.
isn't this short, you guys. He's inside of it. So there's, okay, so we've got the drain, which is important.
Yeah, exactly. And so what we'll have here is kind of like a trench that'll also be filled with wood chips. And so as that worm tea exits the system, we're basically building a trench full of compost as well. So over time, we can come over here if we're establishing like a new orchard or something. We would want to come in here and dig these wood chips out, use them around our trees, and then put fresh ones back in here to become inoculated over time from the system.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet. So people can learn more about you and your off-grid solutions. It's not just vermicomposting. You can notice in the back on one of our yurts, Shawn just set up our solar system. So these yurts are going to be completely off-grid with their solar and their composting toilets. So
absolutely.
hackmyhomestead.com.
That's right.
If you want to learn more.
If you want to come in and take a look inside real quick,
absolutely.
I'll get out of the way.
Okay, here we go.
So this is
this is like a great kid toy spot.
Yeah, absolutely. You can play hide and go seek in here very well. So I'll have to clean this out a little bit in order to get this in, but essentially once this is in, we'll bring this back down to secure it and get this level at about this elevation all the way across. Then the window screen will go across, and then wood chips on top of
wood chips, and then we'll put the little layer of twigs, make it like a little lasagna, so that way the debris kind of falls through, and then we can start using it and get these worms fed. Thanks, Shawn.